Hey everyone, welcome back to the Love Breakthrough Retreat. And today's Love Transformation class is a pretty exciting one because we're going to talk about, talking actually. And I've got Stephanie here, who is actually an expert on communication. She's a relationship coach and she has some really, really great advice. We're going to give you the really detailed, practical steps on how to have great communication, both dating and in a relationship. Welcome, Stephanie.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
Yay. Tell us a little bit about how communication came to be a topic that you were interested in and you feel really passionate about teaching.
Yeah, definitely. I remember thinking that when we read the books about what's important, what are the non-negotiables, and we hear the typical things like trust, honesty, communication, but people don't tend to understand the depth of what that is. And I've always been a communicator. I was a writer, I was a speaker. I've always been involved in how we use expression. And I found that it was the missing link in relationships and dating. We were hiding behind these contortions. We were not able to express what we wanted. And we just didn't really figure that out. And so I dived into why we do what we do, motivation of behavior, and finding out how to have conversations that are actually inviting as opposed to declarative.
So when a lot of people think of communication, they kind of go, because for many of us, we've been so used to suppressing our own needs, our own desires, and our own wants. Often it stems back to childhood, which we're not going to go into. But let's talk a little bit about what do you mean by communication? What is that?
So it's really about the understanding and expressing of your own needs with insight and empathy of the other person around. So a lot of the times, think about when you're a kid, you learn to talk and you just start blabbing out words and you were just praised for speaking. As you got older, we were then reprimanded for speaking. Don't talk, don't say that, mommy and daddy are talking. So we got this message that it was great to speak, and then we were told to be quiet. And then as you hit that prepubescent age where you're figuring out, you're exploring, you're growing, you're developing your personality, we don't have someone go back in and say, actually, emotions are wonderful. They're fantastic teachers. Here's how to move through one. It just never happened. So then as we grow up, we just become adults, but there's this missing link. And then we think, I'll just merge my life with someone and it'll be wonderful. And that's where we get into problems because people just don't understand that this is a skill over time. There are people that are perhaps better at expressing themselves, and there are people that really have a hard time, but it's a non-negotiable. If you want a forever relationship, you have to be able to talk to each other. So it's about peeling back and going, okay, maybe this is just a simple skill set that I can learn for the love and respect of the relationship.
How would we know? I mean, we'd all like to be better at communication, right? But how would we actually know if it is communication that's potentially been the thing that's been inhibiting our ability to create great connections? So if we're single currently, or even in a relationship, how would we actually know if it is the lack of communication that's the thing that could potentially solve our problems?
It's because everything that we have at our disposal to feel okay in our psyche has to be expressed. So when you're feeling an emotion, you can feel it in your body. You know the difference between frustration, joy. We can physiologically know what's happening, but what happens is we don't actually go, I'm experiencing an uncomfortable emotion. We just haven't done that. And so what ends up happening is if we put communication last or we don't recognize its value, all of the other issues just come to the forefront. You won't have trust issues if you talk to your partner. You won't have jealousy issues if you communicate things that you're uncomfortable with. So it's the foundation of everything. And as a couple, it's really important to both talk about the foundational communications. How do you want to talk to each other? What's important? When you're single, this is the time before you're in a relationship, when you're in that space in between, to go, how would I like to be talked to? How would I like to communicate? No one's ever sat down and said, how would I prefer someone to talk to me? We know what we don't want. And we typically tend to lead with what we don't want. Don't yell at me. Don't talk back to me. Don't be condescending. So immediately what happens is the person receiving this shuts down because now their brain's going, I did something wrong. What did I do? Did I actually do that? She's not right. And that's how arguments happen. So we've escalated something into a bicker. And once you hit the bicker stage, you have an opportunity to go, okay, this is a little much. What are we doing? Most people don't take that. And then we get into an argument. And so there are so many opportunities that people can have, and they tend to miss it because they don't go, oh, what are we really talking about? What's really happening? So communication is the essential, it's a fire extinguisher. It completely cuts it out. When you can learn to go, oh, okay, I'm actually upset because 2 days ago I asked you to do X and it never happened. And it took me 2 days to recognize that this thing that I asked you to do was vulnerable for me to ask. You said, I guess. That contempt hit me back. I felt guilty. All these things happen in a split second. And you have to go, oh, so this is my emotion. I'm owning it. And then we communicate and say, I felt a little disappointed. It was upsetting. We have to just start phrasing these. And so the other person goes, oh, she's actually telling me something as opposed to noise or nagging or just, incoherent frustration. It's a skill to be able to go, I'm feeling uncomfortable. What am I uncomfortable about? What's my part in this? Did I express a need? Was this need not met? How do I tell my partner? It's a sequence. And you can do it quickly, but most couples never learn how. So the communication aspect, it just completely negates everything else because when you're on the same page, there's not a lot to be frustrated about.
Does this also apply, do you think, some couples go big, right? But some people in relationships or even in early stages of dating go small. If there's a disconnection or maybe like don't respond or just don't, or leave, or does it apply in both of those situations?
Of course, because they may not respond verbally, but they're going to respond with hostile energy, with tension, with resentment. They don't respond and burrow it, but then that's what happens when you come out of an agitation that was never expressed. And this is what happens when you see couples that don't say anything but silently seethe, and then their partner breathes the wrong way, and then it comes up and out. It may not be a yell, it may not be a scream, it could be an eye roll. It could be muttered under your breath. It could be well, I didn't expect you to do it anyway. We always communicate. We may not learn how to verbalize things, but our body language, our energy, the micro expressions in our face. So we're always caught. It's just about going, okay, clearly there is part of me that feels uncomfortable sharing vulnerably. And that would be the first thing to really dissect, because if we're not afraid, if we have a partner, whether it is our mate, our sister, a guy we've been talking to for a month, if we're comfortable in our skin to say, it's okay for me to express this, and other people's process is theirs. If I say something to my partner, it's his job to process it. He can decide if he's going to respond from an emotionally intelligent place or not. And then it's my job to respond to that. We just have to learn how to address and really pay attention to our partner.
I know there's probably some girls thinking my communication skills were great, but for some reason I always end up with this partner and he's just not a good communicator. He's a bit emotionally disconnected. Every time I bring this kind of thing up, he doesn't want to talk, he shuts down. What advice, so I know you're going to take us in a little bit more detail sort of through the actual steps, but is there something that we can do in those situations?
Definitely. And this is very common because a lot of the times women forget that men communicate differently. We get really frustrated about that fact, but it's far easier to embrace it than to try and resist it. Women connect through chatting. Call your girlfriends, you have deep conversations, we connect, we feel so good, and then we turn around to our partners and expect that in return. most of the time, it's an expectation thing. Men typically, and of course there's always exceptions, but for context, men typically have a different wiring that is one at a time. I'm not going to say anything unless I mean it. I'm not really down for hours of conversation. They've also grown up thinking that their emotions are wrong, that men need to be tough, that it's wrong to cry. When you put that all together and then have that developed years and years and years, and you meet a 40-year-old guy who doesn't know how to have a conversation, it's not shocking. So what I would suggest to do is to take notice of how much the woman, how much you are leading and pushing and suggesting and having these conversations. Because why would the partner suddenly go, I know, I'm going to sit her down for a conversation when you're doing it already? There's no room for him to show you his capability. There's no room for him to say, oh, I remember that she really enjoys having a cup of coffee with me on Sunday to talk about the day. I'm going to have that. If we don't give them the opportunity, it's like I see it all the time. Women go, he won't do this, he won't do that. I'm like, you're doing it. Why would he? We need to allow the space and invite, because men, I tell you, they want to please their partners. They want to be the big, strong man going, I'm going to put a pot of coffee on. I remembered that that's how she feels connected. Let him do it. That would be the first step, is to peel back the control, because oftentimes it's the fear of, if I don't do it, he won't. So someone's got to. And we have an energetic mismatch. So the woman's doing everything and then upset that she's doing everything. So we have to stop and go, okay, what would happen if I eased back the control? Because that's what it is. It's, I have an expectation of how people should be. And if I don't see it, I'm going to create it. And then I'm burnt out by doing all the work. So we stop and go, okay, what would happen if I lose the control and invited him to show me what he's made of? Men love that. Give them the opportunity. And then the second thing would be to say, how have you asked? Have you been naggy, repetitive? Have you asked him to do the same thing 7 times in an hour? Because that's not effective. Then you're mommy. If you say, take the trash out, take the trash out, take the trash out, there's no polarity, there's no chemistry. He hears Charlie Brown music, and you go, oh, I'll do it anyway. I'll just do it myself. Ugh. We've now put him down. You've now become mommy. He's criticized. Chemistry's done. And that happens in 5 minutes. So it's about going, okay, I've expressed in an inviting way, and this looks like, it's really attractive when you put the garbage out. I feel really supported when you know that I love coffee with you in the morning. I'm really turned on when I come out of the bedroom and the dishes are done. That's far more inviting than going, you never do the dishes. I keep asking you to do the dishes. So it's about checking in with yourself first and going, okay. And if you notice that your requests are filled with tension, chances are you haven't been getting your needs met, and you haven't been asking in a way that is inviting. And so you're burnt out. And it's okay. We typically think that we need to let them know over and over and over and over. And really it's about going, have I expressed to him in an inviting way what I need? Have I given him the space to do it? And along the way, am I being respectful and letting him lead? We all want men to lead, but then we rush the door. So those two things in tandem will really start to change the dynamic, and everyone will breathe a little bit better, definitely.
So I hear people say sometimes, oh my God, I ask him so many times, he should know already. And sometimes it can be a little bit of a case of maybe not being specific enough. How can we do that in a way that man really understands how he can please us or meet our needs?
Definitely. I think it's really about not coming from an immediate criticism. Because when I hear women say that, I go, when we go, he never does this, or he should do this. Why? Have you two sat down and said, how would you like the flow of our household to be? How do you want to do division of labor? What do you want to do? What do I want to do? I hate vacuuming. Perfect. You do it. I hate dishes. You do it. I'll cook and I'll do the laundry. Beautiful. If you've never had that conversation, or there's never been an open dialogue that says, these are the expectations we both have, then we can't turn around and go, well, he should know this. Why isn't he doing this? We haven't discussed, we haven't set the standard. So it's really about going, okay, if I haven't set the standard, what a beautiful opportunity. You make dinner together, you put music on, you go, how do you feel about how we run the house? What would be helpful for me to do to ease your stress? Do you know how much more inviting that is than saying, you never do this, you never do that? What guy is going to be inspired to go, oh, I was just criticized and chastised for 20 minutes straight and I feel like a chump, so let me go do something for her. It doesn't work like that. And so men just shut down and go, yes, dear, annoyed, grumble, annoyed. And the woman goes, oh, I'll never do it anyway. Tension, hostility. So it's about setting yourself up for success. Have the conversation. How would a harmonious house feel to you, baby? What would it be like if we were just flowing? What would that look like? Asking questions that are specific are going to appeal to the male brain because they can go, I know the answer. Maybe that looks like letting him wake up for half an hour without interruptions and not talking. Maybe he needs to feel settled so that he can be of service to you. We get very selfish in a relationship. We have expectations we don't vocalize. We have standards we've never set. We then criticize our partners, and then we get upset when they don't perform for us. So it's about checking in with how we are presenting ourselves and then providing the opportunity and making it fun, making it like, this is our home, this is our marriage, this is our relationship. How do you want it to look? Let's build it together. Make it the two of you with the relationship as its own entity, as opposed to the two of you at each other. That would be the first step.
Yeah, I think it's a great place to start building good communication with just the simple things. I wanted to talk about perhaps some of the more complex ways in which we diminish ourselves as far as communicating. For example, in the early stages of getting to know someone and dating, it gets to a point where we maybe feel a little bit uncertain or where things stand, if there's what the status of the relationship is. Often there comes a point where single women or in the early stages want to have a conversation to know where the relationship is headed, but don't always say anything because they don't want to rock the boat. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember that. It's that weird space. You're playing the what are we game. And the ultimate reality is this. And a lot of people wish that I had a different response, but the truth is that there is no certainty. It's not something that we ever get. The certainty that we can find is within ourselves to say, I'm really enjoying this. I feel really good about this. I'm going to continue to hold this space. And if this guy wants to continue to be in my world, fantastic. But if he at any time wants to opt out, that's fine too. It's okay. Dating is just data collecting. It's just going, okay, do we mesh? Do we jive? Are our values aligned? Do we want the same things? It's important to remember that people on dating apps are dating. If you've never had the exclusivity conversation, expect him to be chatting with other people, and you should be too. It's not this, I'll be okay when he wants to commit to me. It's about going, I know what I have to offer. I'm a worthy woman who's continually working on myself. What's meant for me is not going to pass me by. So what if I just held that space and was okay? And I'm a fan of really reading into actions. A lot of people go, well, I feel better because I get a good morning text every day. And I'm like, that doesn't say anything. He could send a good morning text to every woman in his phone. It's not a milestone. What you want to look for is the action and the follow through, the integrity. There's a difference between a man who is chatting with you and a man with intention. And you start to find that out by connecting on a value-based system. So this is who I am. This is what I'm about. This is what my life looks like. What about you? Do we mesh? Do we jive? And then trusting that you're not going to be passed over. This idea that, the universe is like, you can have it, you can have it, you can have it, but you can't, is illogical. The way that we prevent ourselves from moving into a deeper connection is we kneecap our sentences. We say yes to things we want to say no to. We play along when things maybe don't jive with us, because all we want is a relationship. But I would really challenge the people listening to go, I'm whole on my own. The right man is going to go, I will do whatever it takes to be with you. And not only that, I'll make sure no one else is vying for your attention. Chivalrous old school men exist. They do. So it's about going, maybe I'm going to be open. Maybe I'm going to be completely receptive. Follow through on his actions. If he says, let's FaceTime tonight, and you don't get a FaceTime, that doesn't mean you go, oh, okay, we'll do it next week. This is about finding your standards and holding them true. And in terms of the exclusivity conversation, I'm someone that believes if the man is intentional with you, that conversation will come up naturally.
You raise a good example of just simple things that happen in dating when a guy says that I'll do something and he doesn't follow through. But often again, a lot of us don't say anything. We either bank it and then decide we're not interested, or we just bank it and then just smooth it over and pretend it didn't happen. Exactly. Do you have any tips on how we can just communicate and set some standards for ourselves in those early stages as well?
Definitely. And it's so crucial and important. This is about coming from a place of, these are my personal non-negotiables. And in terms of setting them, you go, what feels good, what doesn't? If someone says to me, let's FaceTime on Friday at 7, and they don't do it, that's a non-starter, because that says so much. Of course, things happen. And if you get a message the next day saying, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, can we do it right now? Like, if there's actual, like, we're humans, things happen, right? But for the most part, intelligent women have an intuition if they are being played, if they are being misrepresented. And so for me, if I was dating again, a non-negotiable, non-starter is lack of follow through. I need integrity. Integrity is what makes people trust. It's what makes people feel safe. So for me, if that were to happen, I would say, I understand life happens. For me personally, integrity is really sexy and attractive. I really enjoy follow through. And then leave it at that. We don't need to make declarative statements. We don't need to send a million long texts. We don't need to do you missed out on a good opportunity. We don't want to come up, because ultimately all that's going to happen is we're going to look bitter, jaded, and angry. Not attractive to men. I tell you, if you come from a space of, it's not really cool, I don't work like that, it's not something I do. If he comes to you and says, I can't believe it, a business thing came up, I fell asleep, how can I make it right? How can I make it up to you? You get to decide. You have the power and control, because your romantic love life is not dependent on someone who hasn't declared that, or hasn't said it's you, or hasn't said, I can't believe it, that'll never happen again. The way that you get those high caliber men is you set that tone, you set that standard, and you do it in a way that is inviting. So when I make plans with someone, it's really important to me to have that met. I understand life happens. A text would have been really helpful. And then you decide, is this someone I want to continue with? Think about it. The beginning stages of dating or relationship, that's supposed to be the super fun time. It's supposed to be the time where you're like, this is great. If you're getting a red flag 2 weeks in, you get to decide, is this worth my energy to go, I really like integrity. Follow through is very crucial to me. Or do you go, okay, he showed through his action his priority, and be very neutral about it. It's okay either way. If it's not this guy, there's someone better. So holding your personal standards, holding your personal boundaries looks like, what are my red flags? What are my yellow flags? And then when I see my yellow and red flags, why do I not follow them? Or why do I not hold that true? Because that gives a lot of information. I could say to you, it's absolutely not okay if my partner yells at me. Okay, well, what happens if he yells at me? Does that mean that we're done? Does that mean we have a conversation? Does that mean my standards are changing? We have to be able to take the time when we're dating to come up with our own personal manifesto. What's okay? What's not okay? How am I going to hold myself to it? And then coming up with language that is very neutral. I really enjoy it when. It's not fun for me when. And they get to go, oh, okay, am I someone who can handle this request? Am I someone who can follow through? Because this woman is solid and sovereign, and she's communicated that in a soft, open way because she knows who she is. Then the men get to go, okay, I'll never do that again. Whoo, I can't believe I almost blew it. And you really just start to set your own tone, and then you decide, okay, how do I hold to it?
There's a really important conversation that we've probably all had to have and all struggled a little bit with, and that's the conversation with the guy who's kind of like circling around and coming in and out of our life, and we want to get a clear sort of sense of, are you in or out kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now I know we talked about we perhaps should just opt out ourselves, but I'm sure that there's many women watching that have been in this situation. It's someone that they really care about, but they're just feeling uneasy about where to stand and probably haven't communicated well or established really great boundaries for this, for what they expect of this person from the beginning. How do you suddenly, after you've had a relationship or a dating connection with someone for a while, sort of step in and then have that clear communication and be heard?
Right. It's really about stacking a conversation where you get the truth. And so what I mean by stacking a conversation is and of course, I'll go through an example for the listeners, and you guys can make it fit to your specific circumstance. But let's say, for example, you're playing the What Are We game. So you would start with an opener, and you would say something like, hey, baby, I was just thinking about the fact that, we've been really getting to know each other for a few months now, and it's been really fun. I really enjoy spending time with you. How do you feel? Boom. That's one. This is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm thinking. What do you feel? There's no actual statement. It's just we're opening the conversation. In a healthy relationship, it looks like him saying, yeah, like this has been so fun. I really enjoy it. And the conversation will actually get to a place where you can go, I'm at a place in my life where I want something substantial. I'm really excited about where I'm at in my life, and having a partner to join that feels really good for me. What about you? So you haven't said, what are we? You haven't said, we've been dating for 6 months. I want to be in a monogamous relationship. What do you think? You're not doing any of that, but you're getting the truth. So we've been dating for a little bit. It's been really fun getting to know you. Like, I really enjoy who you are. What do you think? Like you're flirting, you're having fun. It's not serious. It goes, yeah, like you're a great chick. This has been super fun. You're beautiful. I enjoy you. I'm now at a place in my life where I've worked so hard. I have this amazing business. Like, it's just such a good space. And like, I'm really excited about sharing that with someone and then having a partner. How do you feel about that? And so what you're doing is you're stacking the conversation so that it's a light container where there's no pressure and there's no intensity, and the guy isn't sitting there going, am I answering this right? Is she expecting something? Because that's what happens. Men know. They're not dumb. They know when we are wanting something from them. So don't have a conversation where you want something from it. Have an open, stacked conversation where you go, this is what I think. What do you think? This is how I feel. How do you feel? And it's a flow, because if you actually are going to move into a deep, intimate relationship, you should be able to naturally have a conversation. The people who would be in trouble are the ones that are so nervous and apprehensive to talk. That signals to me that there isn't as much depth that we're looking for. And a lot of women that are in situations, let's say 6 months, if you've been with someone for 6 months and they haven't committed to you, chances are the person is not looking for a long-term monogamous relationship. The body's wired to go, oh, you, perfect, symmetry, pheromones, we vibe, let's do it. That's how it works. So if we've been pushing and pushing and pushing, and you're going, look how great I am, look how wonderful, aren't we having fun? Isn't the sex amazing? He knows, he's gotten a vision. It doesn't take a whole day to recognize sunshine. It doesn't take a year for someone to go, well, she's all right. It doesn't. So this is about you going, okay, what if we just sat down and had an open flowed, stacked conversation. Here's what I'm thinking. What do you think? Here's how I'm feeling. What do you feel? You'll know in the conversation if he's skirting the issue, if he's going, yeah, whatever, what's on Netflix, if he's in avoidance, if he's not looking at you. You have all the information you need, and you can do that quickly. It doesn't need to be this, what are we? Because I can tell you, if you're 6 months in and you're going, what are we? Your answer may not be the outcome you desire, and it's totally okay, because there's nothing worse than being in a half relationship or a lukewarm love where you are putting in the most, hoping that he's going to wake up and go, oh, well, it's been a year. I do want to be with you. Men typically want to make sure before they commit that this woman hits all the boxes. And if you have been making it very easy for him to be in your life without terms and without a structure, why would he raise that? It's very easy. I know plenty of one, it doesn't make him a bad guy. I know plenty of wonderful men who are in a comfortable situationship. It's not a relationship, it's a situationship. Why would they mess with that? They get the act of a girlfriend without the emotional responsibility. So this question's layered because there's a lot to look at. Within 3 months, if you guys are actually vibing and serious, there should be, and I say should because there's always an exception, but some direction. At 6 months, I would say that there would have been at least one conversation about exclusivity. If you've been doing this for a year, it's not a relationship. I think oftentimes women go, I'll just show him how great I am. I'll just show him how wonderful I am. And men tell us all the time, you know, my ex really messed with me. You know, my business is really booming right now. They're telling you that all the time, and we go, oh, his ex was terrible, I'll be even better. His ex was awful, I'll show him how loving and wonderful I am. So we're on the treadmill, we're doing the work, and he's going, cool, like I get to sleep with her, she's cooking me food, I get to come over, but there's no tie. So it's really about checking in and going, okay, like, what would my best friend say about this relationship? What would she say? Would she go, well, it's kind of like that? And then go, okay, do we have enough depth to have a stacked conversation? Is he responding to me in a way where my intuition and my brilliance is going, okay, this is the truth? Am I willing to not be in denial? And then again, it goes back to what's required to be in your presence. If you are someone, and I was this girl for a decade, if you are someone that has no application process, anyone can come in, anyone can stay, anyone can come and go, and you're just happy to be there, you will continue to get men who don't view you as someone to be in a secured space with, because it's just an open invitation. People can come and go as they please. Why would anyone raise the stakes? It's when you go as a sovereign woman going, listen, like, I really love my life. I'm in a really amazing space, and I'm at a place where I want to share that with someone. And if it's you, great. And if it's not, that's okay too, because you're on your own journey. And I would much rather have my own space with someone who wants to be here, all in, and hold hands and jump with me. It's okay to say that. It's okay to want that. But the first step is to really check in and assess what's the truth of your situation right now.
When we're actually in a serious relationship, let's say we need to have a really serious conversation when communication can be the most, I guess, charged with emotion. Like, it might be like, what's the future of our relationship conversation? It might be some very, very deep conversation. Do you have any tips specifically for those types of deep conversations in terms of the environment or how we might set them up, any do's and don'ts?
Yeah, definitely. So this is the same type of format, but when it comes to a serious topic or something that's a potential make or break, my best tip, and the thing that I never see people do, is you want to call out the uncomfortability. That's the first step, is to say, oh, this feels big. This conversation's a little scary for me. I'm a little uncomfortable. Why not announce that? Because then the heat's out. You both can go, okay, like we're both feeling uncomfortable. Okay. Starting out by actually addressing it instantly brings you guys closer together, because then you're back to us looking at the relationship, not us against each other. So the next thing you want to do is you want to actually say, this situation is on my mind because, or I've been really feeling into what's happened. Anything that's essentially you starting out. So it's the same way we stack the conversations. This is what I'm noticing. This is what I've been experiencing. It's all you. So he's not defensive. He's not already coming up with something to say. You call out the uncomfortability. Then you say, I've been noticing that when this happens, I've been noticing that I feel, whatever is applicable. And then you say, is it just me? Am I the only one that's feeling this? Because quite frankly, the best case scenario is that it's worse in your head and you've just been sitting on this thing. Best case scenario, and then it stops there. If he goes, yeah, you know what? This we can't be in denial about this. This is really serious. What I would want you to do then is to go, okay, let's set this up. And what that looks like is kids are in bed, phones are off. When we set up a conversation, we're essentially giving it the respect it deserves. We're not having this in the kitchen with kids everywhere and the TV on. That's disrespectful. If it's big enough to sit down with, we sit down. So finding a space to have an intimate, uninterrupted space that respects the relationship. And we're doing this in sequence so that it's basically saying our relationship is so important that we're going to make this important too. So what me and my fiance do is we have a bath together. We call it tub time. And it's uninterrupted, it's intimate, it's close, and we are connecting. So we'll make sure that we can set up a time for this conversation and do it in a space where we're uninterrupted and intimate. And then the woman leads, because typically this is a feminine energy 101. Go, I want to know from you what you view on this. I want to know from you how you're experiencing this. Because oftentimes what women tend to do is they go, this and this and this and this and this and this and this, and I feel like this and this and this and this and this, and he's lost you. Because we've been waiting for this conversation, so now we get everything up, and then we sit and look and go, what do you think? And they don't have enough time to process. So then we go, you are listening. So you want us to ask, go, what do you think about this? What do you think about this situation? Like, because it may not even be a thing to them, and then the conversation is just you having that support. If they go, you know what, this has been on my mind for a bit, I'm glad we're getting to talk about it, you then go, I would love to have this conversation be a solution-based conversation. I don't want to argue with you. Get real. Get so honest. We've been having this thing. It's been a monkey on our back. I want to just find a solution. Can we work together? What do you think? How would you solve this? Like, go to their strengths. Men are problem solvers by nature. Men don't like messy bullshit. They want to fix it. So lean into that. Again, another opportunity. I can see this conversation happening. But he goes, it's just so annoying. I'm stressed out. Like, I got to deal with this and I got to deal with that. You then go, what can I do to help that? How can I lean into that? Is there anything I haven't been doing that I could do? Do you see how helpful that is, as opposed to going, you never do this, you never do that? All we're doing is we're having the deepest conversation we've ever had by putting everything on the table. This is uncomfortable. What do you think about it? How can I help you? Is there anything I haven't done? How do you feel? What's going on? The two of you are having such a strength conversation that your relationship will be stronger after, because it's not about you versus him. It's going, okay, there's an external stress that's messing with us. So let's just call a thing. What do you think about it? How do you feel? What can I do? What am I not doing? And then in a healthy relationship, the man will reciprocate that. You know, is there anything I can do that I haven't done to show you how much I love and support you? These are real, like, people, like, this is how we talk at home. And it's just a habit. So you get into it. You go, I want to find a solution. I want to have this be a beautiful dialogue. This is not an argument. Let's just chat. Tell me what's going on. Short, succinct, let him have the space, and then in a perfect world, by the time you're done, you guys both are like high-fiving. Like, we tag team this. We realized that this stress was external. We were handling it internally, and now we have a solution. And then the follow through is what counts.
Love that. I hope everyone's making notes. Actually, you've got a free gift that's really going to help the viewers to be able to really map out how to implement these communication tips into their own circumstances, right?
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. I'm going to give you guys an exact breakdown of how to stack a conversation to be inviting and solution based. And so you'll be able to fill in the blank and have a bit of a template so that you can have these conversations that are productive.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Make sure you grab a copy of the communication template linked down below the video today. Stephanie, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share? Any final tips about communication?
Definitely. I think that it's something that we need to remember, that we're not always going to ace it. We're human beings, right? It's a practice. It's learning. I'm 8 years older than my fiance. So I'm 34, my fiance is 26. So it's not always easy to be on the same page. Communication is a skill, but everyone can implement this. And relationships, I'm a huge believer that unless we're in a space of toxicity or abuse or anything that is at that extreme level, I'm a huge fan of problem solving. I'm a huge fan of just getting honest and saying, this sucks. What do you think? What do you want to do? It's so fun when you can find that deep connected, we're in this together relationship. And I really want everyone who's listening to get excited and inspired to take these tips and just really strengthen your relationship. And if you're single and in the space looking for one, these skills in your back pocket will make dating such a breeze. So thank you so much. I had such a fun time doing this with you today.
We so appreciate your beautiful real talk, your such warm, down-to-earth nature, and the way that you so candidly shared all of these things, which made us really relate to our real life circumstances. So thank you so much for joining us this year, Stephanie.
Thank you, love.